Aloha, Martha here with Light Diamond Creative. Pew, 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 pew. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being on the YouTube channel, checking out this information. This is podcast season 2, The Awakening audio biography by yours truly. My attempt to capture the awakening journey in one spirit's experience and also through a biological lens. Yes, I've got a bachelor's of science in biology, and here we are giving words, biological words, to an experience of awakening at this point on planet Earth right now. It's very exciting, people. Yep. The space where science and spirituality overlap. Oh, it's a beautiful one. Yes, it is. So thanks for being here, tuning in, turning on, tapping in to this information. In the first episode, we talked about more of the awakening process during early years of life as a child and up to high school experience. And then in episode 2, we got into the college experience and certain pinpoints, bullet points, there we are, and certain bullet points of the awakening experience through college, going through getting a degree, and how I evolved a little bit that way over that time. And this is really to share the awakening journey from my perspective and see if there are overlapping experiences with other people. And I would be willing to bet that the awakening journey could also be represented by perhaps the hero's journey, the individual's walk through life, and the archetypes that happen through that process. Maybe. So at this point in the podcast, we're getting to 2016. So I graduated high school in 2010, graduated from college, private liberal arts, Division I Southern Conference, Furman University, 2014, with a bachelor's in science, bachelor's of science in biology. And so let's see, when college ended, and we didn't even touch on the shift from one sport to another and how that was really kind of a spiritual move on my part, maybe another time. But I did finish school as a volleyball college athlete, graduating with honors. So there was a lot of mix with classes that were next level, and also the experience of being a student athlete is next level because there's so many demands on the time of a student athlete. And then when I graduated in 2014, I was so tired. I was so tired from all the years of working hard in school. I was so tired from all of the years working hard as a student athlete. All of that finally began to take its toll. And when I graduated in 2014, I didn't even want to really work in my field. I just wanted to have some freedom and not a regimented schedule like I had been having for the last 4.5 years, really 8.5 years, including high school. And this was a big sway of the pendulum from one direction of the other, having all that regimented, structured time into being the one who creates my life. After I graduated, I became a waitress. I was a waitress for a long time, and I moved with a friend to North Carolina. She and I had been friends in high school, and we moved to North Carolina on a whim for the adventure of it, and lived in North Carolina for a while before I finally moved down to Florida. And there wasn't a lot of spiritual activity by me when I was in North Carolina. I mean, I feel like I've been a mostly good person for my life. But when it came to spirituality, I really was not tapping in. I'd pretty much let go of the dogma from when I grew up at that point and had come to a really beautiful place with my place in the cosmos due to the amazing biology classes that I was taking and some trips that I had been on that had altered my perspective forever. But when I got to North Carolina, well, this environment was much different. First of all, I was a waitress and a cocktail server for the club. So much different. Really letting loose, I guess you could say, being a night owl and serving drinks, becoming a beer tender and serving alcohol to a military, so how do you say, a military environment. Most of the people who lived in Fayetteville, North Carolina at the time and who still do today are military men and women or military families. And so I moved from college into this space of North Carolina, and the environment of the military did lend much different energy than places I had been in before. So I cocktail waitress for a while and did the beer tending and did the waitressing, and it did give me a certain amount of freedom. Although at this point in my life, I was still getting over an eating disorder. Now, how does this even blend in with the awakening journey? Well, becoming aware of one's physical body is part of the awakening journey, in my opinion, because the awakening journey is like the continuous raising of awareness about anything, right? So the place I was in mentally and emotionally wasn't very good. I started to have an eating disorder in college after some exposure to close friends who had an eating disorder, and after really not being confident in myself. I was insecure. I was. And those factors led to me expressing an eating disorder through bulimia and anorexia. And now, if we're bringing it to the spiritual side, a lot of the spiritualities would say that the body is a temple. And so, if we are treating the body poorly, then we are treating the temple poorly. We're treating the altar poorly. And not taking care of oneself, and taking care of oneself is like not being an embodied spirit and then being an embodied spirit. So it took me time to get out of that cycle of harming myself through purging or restraint, and usually cycles between both, because practicing restraint and not eating is not sustainable, especially as a student athlete. And that is one of the reasons that diets don't work very well, because they're too mental. And a lot of the diets are not correct for what is effective in creating a healthy body. So I really was not feeling confident. And then I'll tell you the turning point. I would say that this is part of my spiritual awakening, my shift from not taking care of my body and overdoing it with exercise, really restraining myself from food, throwing up food. I mean, it's just not a good combination. Really being hard on myself, judging myself and my body the way I interpreted everyone else was. I was also afraid of like going home. I went to school 1,000 miles away from home. And so I was afraid of coming home and people thinking that I had gained the freshman 15. And you know, there are so many pressures on us from society as men or women to make us behave a certain way or think that we need to be a certain way. And I thought that I needed to be in a physically aesthetic state of being as others would perceive me. And so this is why I behaved this way. So what changed? Believe it or not, I was reading freaking Hunger Games. I don't remember which book it was, but I was a sophomore in college at this point in time. And The Hunger Games, one of the books has a scene where Katniss, the representative of District 12, go is it District 12? Was it 11? I'm a little fuzzy on that at this point. But at one point in her story, she goes to the Capitol, which is much different when it comes to affluence than the district that she grew up in. And as she's amongst this party for celebrating the games in which people are killed, yeah, when she's at this party for that, she sees a lot of people in the Capitol behaving strangely. Platters of food being taken around so that everyone can gorge themselves, and then platters of drinks being taken around so that people can drink the drink to make themselves throw up. That way they can eat more. And I read that and I thought something like, wow, that is perspective. No one who has known hunger would force themselves to throw up nutritious food. Someone who has known hunger would appreciate the food that they bring into their bodies. And that really shifted me into a different understanding. And it did take me a couple, I got out of bulimia. I was still hard on myself. You know, it transitioned into counting macros and counting calories and diets and all this stuff. But I made a large step, because of that passage in the book, to not throwing up and not really doing the anorexic thing anymore. I started to develop a little bit better relationship with my body, but not much. I still felt pressures to look a certain way. I still felt like I wasn't good enough no matter what. And I was still attempting to manipulate my physical body so that it would be aesthetically pleasing to others. And nothing I could do would ever make me feel good about myself, no matter how aesthetically pleasing I may have looked to others. I miss that. I didn't look that way to me. This is part of body dysmorphia. But finally, I got out of college and I moved to North Carolina, and things were starting to get a little bit better. You know, I pretty comfortably ate, and I definitely worked out a lot. I was working out a lot. You know, that's part of the disorder too, is working out too much. So I hadn't totally let that go. And so I'm in North Carolina and I get called to go down to Florida. Getting called to Florida. I had an internship in Florida while I was in college about sea turtle conservation and research. And so I got a call, a message to requesting me to come back down and get in a paid position for the same organization. And so I headed on down to Florida. Not a lot of spiritual activity for a time, but Florida, especially the place I went to, it is a hub of spiritual activations for any one person that comes through. Some people would call it a stargate, or a ley line, a place, a physical space of spiritual activation. And so I went down to Florida and had a great deal when it came to my living situation. Really lucked out, working for pretty much minimum wage as someone with a degree in their field, an intro position. Working with sea turtles, not a lot to complain about, but I remember being so lonely. I remember thinking, I've got to start engaging with people outside of work, and I can't just come home every day and be here by myself. And so I started exploring, what am I going to do to get myself into this social environment down here. And of course, what came up is, I'm going to go to the gym. I'll go to the gym. And this is where really it all began. We've talked about some of the spiritual activations and awakening moments up to this point, but that's nothing compared to what would unfold. I went to the gym. Yep, I went to the gym. And When I went to the gym, I got to work out. I got a membership. And one of the ways of getting into the gym, they set up people with a personal trainer so that, ideally the new person at the gym would be paying a trainer to go through a training program. Now, for me, making $11 or $10 per hour, I definitely wasn't about to afford a trainer, but I still wanted to see what it would be like to go through a test run with somebody specialized in their field, see what they have to say about where I'm at physically or whatever. And so I remember it was a Wednesday. They had scheduled my appointment with a trainer to go through a half hour together for my body analysis. And there I go in. It was like 11 o'clock a.m., scheduled to meet with a trainer, Ben Russell. Ben Russell, the Love Muscle. This will not be the last time you hear of him. I was scheduled to meet with Ben Russell, the Love Muscle, to go through a training period together. 30 minutes was all it took. And the rest of the story will continue in the next episode. So I hope that you all have enjoyed this up to this point. I hope you're having a great day. This is podcast season 2 on Light Diamond Creative YouTube channel, The Awakening audio biography by yours truly, an attempt to capture the awakening journey of one spirit through a biological lens. I'll be with you next time. Tuning in, tapping in, turning on. Peace.